I work hard for my money. I put in 60-hour weeks at my tech startup and saved for months to surprise Sarah with her dream vacation to Hawaii. The ocean view suite at Maui Ocean Resort cost more than my first car, but I thought she was worth every penny. Then my college buddy Jake called from Honolulu. "Angelo, I just saw Sarah at the airport with some guy." They were all over each other. My stomach dropped as I realized she was using the tickets I bought to vacation with someone else. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted. The first time I met Sarah was at a tech conference in Seattle. I was presenting on innovative software solutions, and she caught my attention immediately. While most attendees were typing away on their laptops during my talk, Sarah maintained direct eye contact, nodding at key points and jotting notes in an actual paper notebook. During the Q&A session, she asked thoughtful questions that showed genuine interest in my work. After my presentation, Sarah approached me at the refreshment table. "Your insights on predictive analytics were fascinating," she said, extending her hand. "I am Sarah Wilson, Marketing Director at Nexus Technologies." Her handshake was firm, her smile warm yet professional. Something about her energy felt different from the networking conversations I usually endured at these events. We exchanged business cards, and I found myself hoping she would reach out. To my surprise, Sarah emailed me the very next day with follow-up questions about my presentation. What began as professional correspondence quickly evolved into personal connection. We discovered shared interests in hiking independent films and cooking exotic cuisines. When I learned she lived just 30 minutes from my apartment in Portland, it felt like the universe was aligning in my favor. Our first official date was at a small Ethiopian restaurant downtown. The intimate setting of sharing food from the same platter created an immediate sense of connection. Sarah listened intently as I shared stories about growing up in a small Michigan town before moving west for college. She laughed at my awkward teenage anecdotes and asked questions that made me feel truly seen. "I have never met someone who gets me like you do," I told her, as we walked along the waterfront after dinner. The evening air was crisp and streetlights reflected on the river surface. When she slipped her hand into mine, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Over the next 6 months, our relationship deepened in ways I had never experienced before. Sarah encouraged me to pursue my ambitions at work, offering insight when I felt stuck on projects and celebrating my wins with genuine enthusiasm. When I landed a major client that put my startup on the map, Sarah organized a surprise party with all my friends. She had remembered every person I had mentioned in passing and invited them all. "You deserve to be recognized for your brilliance," she whispered, as we slow danced in my living room after everyone had left. That night, I began to imagine a future with her in it permanently. By our 1-year anniversary, Sarah had become integrated into every aspect of my life. My parents adored her during their visit from Michigan, and my younger sister called her for advice about college applications. Sarah attended all my company events, charming investors, and helping me network with potential clients. When I was offered the opportunity to open a second office location, Sarah spent an entire weekend helping me create the perfect presentation to secure funding. "We make an unstoppable team," she said, high-fiving me after the board unanimously approved my proposal. The way she said "we" made my heart soar. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had found my person, someone who would stand beside me through every challenge and triumph. As I took on more responsibility at work, my hours grew longer. I worried that Sarah would resent my packed schedule, but she seemed understanding. "I know this matters to you," she would say, bringing me dinner at the office when I worked late. "Your success is our success." Her unwavering support made me want to give her the world. One evening, as we scrolled through travel websites on the couch, Sarah lingered on images of Hawaiian beaches. "I have always dreamed of staying in one of those overwater bungalows," she sighed, pointing to a photo of crystal clear water and luxury accommodations. "Just imagine waking up to that view every morning." The wistfulness in her voice planted a seed in my mind. Sarah worked incredibly hard too, managing marketing campaigns for multiple clients at her firm. She deserved a dream vacation, and I wanted to be the one to give it to her. The planning began immediately. I researched the best time to visit Hawaii, comparing weather patterns and tourist seasons to find the perfect window. I took on extra consulting projects on weekends, putting every additional dollar into my vacation fund. For 4 months straight, I lived on ramen noodles and coffee, skipping nights out with friends to save money. When I finally had enough saved, I contacted a luxury travel agent to secure the best possible accommodations. The Maui Ocean Resort has a beachfront suite available for your dates, the agent told me. It includes a private balcony, complimentary couples, massage, and sunset dinner cruise. The price made me wince, but the thought of Sarah's face when she saw it made any sacrifice worthwhile. I kept the plan secret, wanting to surprise her with the trip for her birthday in April. I arranged time off work, prepaid for special excursions, and even bought her a new sundress to pack. Everything was perfect down to the last detail. Looking back, I should have noticed the subtle shifts in Sarah's behavior that began around February. She started canceling our standing Tuesday dinner dates, citing late meetings with clients. Her texts became less frequent, often hours would pass before she responded. When we did spend time together, she seemed distracted, constantly checking her phone. "Is everything okay at work?" I asked one night as we prepared dinner in my kitchen. "You seem stressed lately." Sarah barely looked up from her phone. "Just busy with the Johnson account. They are demanding daily updates now." She slipped her phone into her pocket and kissed me quickly. Nothing to worry about. I believed her because I wanted to, because the alternative was too painful to consider. The first real clue came one Saturday morning as we had breakfast at her apartment. Sarah's phone buzzed repeatedly on the counter while she showered. I glanced over, not intending to snoop, but impossible to miss the name Marcus flashing on her screen with multiple message notifications. When Sarah emerged from the bathroom and saw me looking at her phone, she snatched it up quickly. "Just work stuff," she said casually, but her body language had tensed. She changed her phone password later that day. I noticed because she always used to ask me to look up directions while she drove. At a company dinner the following week, I met several of Sarah's coworkers. When I mentioned Marcus asking if he was enjoying the Johnson project, her colleague Julia looked confused. "Marcus. We do not have anyone by that name on our team." Sarah quickly interjected that Marcus was from the Denver office consulting remotely. The explanation seemed plausible, but something in her eyes made my stomach tighten. I began paying closer attention. Sarah and I had location sharing, enabled on our phones, a practice we started for safety when hiking in remote areas. Twice in 1 week, her location showed her at restaurants across town, when she claimed to be working late at the office. When I casually mentioned seeing her location, she laughed it off. My phone must be glitching again. The GPS has been so unreliable lately. The tipping point came when I ran into Sarah's coworker Julia at the grocery store. "Thank you for understanding all the late nights Sarah has been putting in," she said as we chatted by the produce section. "Our team appreciates partners who get how demanding this industry can be." "Absolutely," I replied, keeping my face neutral. "Those client meetings can run so late." Julia looked puzzled. "Client meetings? We have not had any evening client meetings this month." "Budget cuts." I nodded and changed the subject, but my mind was racing. Why would Sarah lie about working late? The question haunted me as I drove home, gnawing at my insides like acid. 2 weeks before our scheduled trip to Hawaii, Sarah called me with an unexpected request. "Angelo, I have been thinking about our vacation," she began, her voice overly casual. "What would you think if I flew out a few days early? I really need some alone time to decompress before we start all the activities you have planned." The request seemed odd, especially since we had already arranged our work schedules around the same dates. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "Everything is fine," she assured me. "I just need a mental health break. Some time alone on the beach with a good book, you know. Then when you arrive, I will be relaxed and ready for adventure." Despite the uneasy feeling in my gut, I agreed. After all, I wanted her to enjoy the vacation I had worked so hard to plan. "If that would make you happy." "Sure," I told her. "I can change your flight." "Actually," Sarah said quickly, "could you just send me the reservation details? I can make the changes myself. Save you the hassle." I emailed her all the information that evening, including the flight confirmation and resort booking details. She thanked me with a string of heart emojis and promised to handle everything. The next day, I decided to create an even bigger surprise. If Sarah wanted to arrive in Hawaii early, why not join her there? I could move my own flight up and meet her at the resort. The thought of seeing her face when I showed up unexpectedly gave me a thrill. I worked around the clock to clear my schedule, delegating projects and completing deliverables ahead of deadline. I even purchased a special gift for Sarah, a pearl necklace from a local jeweler that I planned to give her during our sunset dinner cruise. Everything was arranged. I would arrive in Hawaii the day after Sarah, surprising her with breakfast in bed at the luxury suite. In my mind, I could already picture her joy, how she would throw her arms around me in gratitude for both the vacation and the unexpected reunion. Then came the phone call that shattered everything. Jake, my friend from college, who now worked as a tour guide in Honolulu, called on a Wednesday afternoon. "Angelo, man, I am not sure how to tell you this," he began, his voice uncharacteristically serious. "But I just saw Sarah at the airport." "Yeah, she flew out today," I replied. "She wanted some alone time before I join her tomorrow." A heavy silence filled the line before Jake continued. "She was not alone, Angelo. She was with some tall guy with a sleeve tattoo. They were, pretty affectionate. Definitely not a business relationship." The world seemed to tilt sideways. "Are you sure it was her?" I asked, desperately hoping for a mistake. "Positive, man." I was about to go say hello when I saw them kissing. I took a step back and watched for a minute to be sure. "I am sorry, but there is no mistake. It was Sarah." I thanked Jake for calling and hung up my hand, shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. A cold numbness spread through my chest as the implications sank in. Sarah was using the tickets I purchased, the vacation I had sacrificed for, to be with another man. Could there be an explanation? A desperate part of me wondered. Perhaps Jake was mistaken. Perhaps there was some reasonable clarification that would make this all go away. "Keep an eye out for them if you can," I texted Jake. "I need to know what is going on." The next morning, Jake sent what I had been dreading: photos. Sarah and a man I had never seen before checking into the Maui Ocean Resort. My resort, the suite I had paid for. In one image, Sarah leaned against the check-in desk, laughing at something the man said. In another, they walked toward the elevator, his arm wrapped possessively around her waist. The final photo showed them on the private balcony of what should have been our romantic getaway, toasting with champagne glasses. But what truly broke me was seeing the necklace around Sarah's throat, a distinctive silver and turquoise piece she had told me was a family heirloom from her mother. "Marcus gave this to me for our first-month anniversary." Jake overheard her telling the check-in clerk. "He is so thoughtful. First month. How long had this been going on behind my back?" The realization hit me like a physical blow. Sarah had been seeing this Marcus person for at least a month, probably longer. All those late nights at the office, the canceled plans, the distant behavior suddenly made perfect, painful sense. While I worked overtime to afford her dream vacation, she was building a relationship with someone else. I sat in my living room for hours, staring at the photos on my phone, until my eyes burned. The pain transformed, evolving from shocked disbelief to a hollowing sadness to white-hot rage. How could she do this? How could she look me in the eyes, accept my love and generosity, while betraying me so completely? Sleep evaded me that night. I paced my apartment, replaying every moment of our relationship, searching for signs I had missed. Had she ever truly cared for me? Or was I simply convenient until something better came along? The questions circled like vultures, picking apart my self-esteem. The next morning, I called in sick to work, for the first time in 3 years. My colleagues sounded concerned, but I could barely focus on their words. "Just a bad flu," I mumbled before hanging up. In reality, I could barely function. I had not eaten since Jake's call, and my body felt hollow, disconnected from reality. Friends reached out throughout the day, worried when I did not respond to texts. My sister called twice, leaving increasingly concerned voicemails. "Angelo, please call me back. You are scaring me." But I could not bring myself to speak the truth aloud. Saying it would make it real. By evening, anger began to crystallize into resolve. I may have been a fool, but I would not continue to be one. I would not finance my own betrayal for another moment. If Sarah wanted a romantic Hawaiian getaway with Marcus, she would not do it on my dime. I contacted the resort, directly explaining that I was the cardholder who had paid for the reservation. "I need to understand my options," I told the sympathetic manager. "Can I cancel the remaining nights of the stay?" The manager informed me that as the paying customer, I had every right to modify or cancel the reservation. The guests would need to settle any room charges incurred so far and make new arrangements, she explained. "Would you like me to process this now?" "Not yet," I replied. "Can you tell me if the guests are currently in the resort? I needed to know my timing would work. According to our system, they have just left for a day tour. They should return around 6 p.m. Perfect. They would have the entire day of luxury before returning to find their vacation plans demolished. It felt like poetic justice. Next, I called my credit card company to dispute charges for the sunset cruise and couples massage I had booked. I did not authorize these individuals to use these services, I explained truthfully. The representative assured me they would investigate and likely reverse the charges. I pulled up the resort app on my phone, canceling every additional amenity I had arranged, from the champagne breakfast to the private beach cabana. One by one, I dismantled the dream vacation I had so carefully constructed. With everything in place, I drafted a brief message to Sarah. "Enjoy your time with Marcus. The suite is paid through today only. I suggest finding new accommodations by checkout time tomorrow. Do not contact me again." At exactly 5:30 p.m. Hawaii time, I called the resort back. "I would like to cancel the remainder of my reservation effective after tonight," I told the manager. "The guests currently staying there are not authorized to extend their stay on my card." "Understood, sir. I have processed your cancellation. The current guests will be informed upon their return that they need to check out by 11 a.m. tomorrow or provide their own payment method." A sense of grim satisfaction settled over me as I imagined Sarah and Marcus returning from their tour to this news. The expensive fantasy I had funded was about to come crashing down around them. The fallout was swift and explosive. At 7 p.m., my phone erupted with calls and texts from Sarah. I let them go to voicemail, listening to her progression from confusion to panic to anger. "Angelo, there must be some mistake with our room," began the first message. "The front desk says, our reservation has been canceled after tonight. Please call them and fix this." By the third voicemail, her tone had changed completely. "This is completely unprofessional and childish. If you have some issue, you should talk to me directly instead of ruining our vacation. Call me back immediately." The seventh and final message revealed the truth. "Fine. I get that you somehow found out about Marcus, but this is not the way to handle things. We could have talked like adults. Now you have embarrassed me in front of the entire resort staff and ruined everything. I thought you were better than this." I finally replied with a single text. "Better than what? Better than someone who would lie, cheat, and use their partner to fund a vacation with their lover. You are right. I am better than that. I am better than you." Sarah called 6 more times that night. I blocked her number. The next morning, Jake sent me an update. You would not believe the scene at checkout. Sarah was crying and yelling at the front desk, while her boyfriend kept saying they could not afford to stay here on their own. They eventually left with their luggage, probably to find a much less luxurious accommodation. Victory is yours, my friend, but it did not feel like victory. It felt like the painful end of something I had believed was beautiful and true. Within days, Sarah's betrayal became known among our mutual friends. Some took her side, suggesting I had overreacted by canceling the reservation without warning. "You could have just confronted her instead of being so dramatic," one friend commented. I deleted them from my contacts immediately. Most people, however, were firmly supportive of my actions. "She used your money to cheat on you," my sister said flatly. "She deserved worse than a canceled hotel room." Sarah attempted to rewrite the narrative on social media, posting vague comments about toxic relationships and controlling behavior. But when mutual acquaintances learned the full story, her support quickly eroded. No one wants to defend someone who would exploit their partner's generosity so callously. The weeks following what I came to call the Hawaii incident were some of the darkest of my life. Despite the righteous satisfaction of my actions, the pain of betrayal cut deep. I threw myself into work, staying at the office until midnight, taking on projects no one else wanted. Anything to avoid going home to an empty apartment, filled with memories. Sleep became a luxury I rarely enjoyed. When I did manage to drift off, I would jolt awake from dreams where Sarah was laughing at me, mocking my naivety, while wrapped in Marcus's arms. The images felt as real as the ceiling I stared at until dawn. "You need to talk to someone professional," my sister insisted, after I missed our weekly Sunday call 3 times in a row. "This is not healthy, Angelo." Initially, I resisted the idea. Therapy seemed like an admission of weakness, proof that Sarah had broken something fundamental within me. But as weeks passed, with no improvement in my mental state, I finally made the appointment. Dr. Lawson specialized in betrayal trauma, a term I had never heard before, but instantly recognized. "What you are experiencing is a normal response to a profound breach of trust," she explained during our first session. "Your brain is trying to process not just the loss of the relationship, but the realization that what you believed was real may never have been authentic." Those words unlocked something in me. I began to unpack not just the pain of Sarah's betrayal, but the deeper fears it had triggered about my worthiness of love and my ability to trust my own judgment. Gradually, incrementally healing began. I established a new routine, focused on self-care rather than self-punishment. Morning runs along the riverfront, cooking classes where I learned to make meals just for myself, weekend hikes with a local group where no one knew my story, and I could simply be Angelo the tech guy who enjoyed nature, rather than Angelo the fool who paid for his girlfriend's romantic getaway with another man. 6 months after Hawaii, I took my first solo vacation to New Mexico. The desert landscape, so different from the lush Hawaiian paradise I had planned with Sarah, felt cleansing somehow. As I watched the sunset paint the sandstone cliffs in shades of gold and crimson, I realized I had not thought about Sarah in days. That night, I deleted all the photos of us from my phone, not in anger or spite, but as part of letting go. She no longer deserved space in my digital life, just as she no longer occupied my heart. Looking back from where I stand today, 2 years removed from that painful chapter, I can see how that experience transformed me. The betrayal that once felt like it might destroy me instead forced me to rebuild my life on a stronger foundation. I learned that genuine love cannot exist without respect and honesty. Sarah's actions revealed not my shortcomings, but her own inability to honor the basic tenets of partnership. This understanding freed me from the cycle of self-blame that had initially consumed me. More importantly, I developed a deeper relationship with myself. Before Sarah, I had defined my worth largely through external validation, particularly from romantic partners. The period of enforced solitude after our breakup taught me to find value in my own company, to trust my instincts, and to establish boundaries that protected my well-being. Those boundaries were tested when Sarah reached out a year later. "I made a terrible mistake," her email began. "Not a day goes by that I do not regret what I did to you." Once, such words might have weakened my resolve, tempting me back into a relationship that had caused so much pain. Instead, I wished her well and deleted the message without responding. That simple act, choosing my peace over the possibility of rekindling what was lost, represented the true completion of my healing journey. Today, I approach relationships with both greater caution and greater authenticity. I no longer rush to sacrifice my own needs to prove my devotion, nor do I ignore warning signs because I fear being alone. When I began dating again, I was surprised to discover that this self-respect actually attracted more genuine connections. The luxury Hawaiian vacation I planned never materialized, but the perspective I gained was infinitely more valuable. I learned that investing in someone who does not value your heart is the poorest financial decision one can make, regardless of the dollar amount. For anyone listening who has experienced betrayal or is currently navigating its aftermath, know that the pain does not define you. Your response to it does. Choosing self-respect over self-destruction is not just an act of survival, it is an affirmation of your inherent worth. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect your dignity or self-worth? Share your experience in the comments below. Like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and hit that notification bell to hear more stories of resilience and growth. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply refuse to accept less than we deserve.